All right, so let's talk about doing a DJ mix in Ableton Live. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some original tunes because I don't want the copyright people to come after me to turn the audio off and see if that works. These are all released, so maybe I should use. I don't know. I don't know if there's a way to make this work without running afoul, even though they are my songs. I think it's the best way to do it, but let's try this. So here, go into music, go into Renegade Masters. And original tracks. All right. So we'll use Brooklyn Boy. Throw this on here. Oh, it's got to download it. Okay, I forgot that it wasn't downloaded. Brooklyn Boy, and let's use Drop and Slide. All right. There's Drop and Slide. Let's use, let's grab two more here. Let's grab this one. The Man Without a Clue remix of Don't Be Shy. And let's do this remix here. This one, Nighttime Bubbling. All right, so we got these songs here. And the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that the everything lines up with everything. To make sure that the beat is matching with everything. And this is understanding about warping and understanding about your warp modes and warp points and all that stuff matters. Now, with these songs, none of them are, what should I say? They're all electronic. They're all like electronically made. They were made with a computer. So they shouldn't drift. If you have an old song that you're trying to put into a DJ mix, like a James Brown track or something like that, you're going to have to do a lot of work with it because it's not going to work properly because it's going to drift over time. So you're going to be constantly fighting with the warping. But a song like these songs here, these songs were made with a computer. They shouldn't drift at all. So when I click on it, we can go down here to the bottom and we can see, I'm just going to make it full screen here. And it should start right in the beginning here, which it does, which is great. Yep, cool. And I'm going to back that out. And I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to hit play. I'm going to turn on my metronome. I'm going to hit play on that track. Whoops. Now, the first thing we need to do, actually, before we do that, I always forget. I always do this like second because I forget to do it. But we need to go ahead and change the warp in here to complex. And I'm going to put, these are all like around 124. So I'm going to just change my tempo over here to 124. Okay. And if we look at these, we should see everything should hit correctly because they were done on a computer. They were actually done in Ableton Live, so they should work really well. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a warp marker here in the beginning. And what I like to do is I like to go and put a warp marker here at the end. Now, this is a little bit kind of counterintuitive, I guess, if you haven't worked with this stuff a lot. Even if you have, I've seen people who like look at me like, why do you do it like that? The reason why I do it like this is because everything should line up. If I go ahead and play this from any point in the track, okay. Cool, so that works out. This is actually the Pobla remix. I forgot his Return of the Jaded. Is this the Return of the Jaded remix? I think it's the Return of the Jaded remix of this song. Yeah, it's a dope remix. So we got this one here, and if I play it, it should work out. And the reason it works out is because it just goes ahead and goes. It's not from a rip from a record. It's not a live track with live musicians. It's just electronic. It should just work. So that's why I put one at the beginning and I put one at the end. Everything else should work out. Now if I change my tempo, you can hear I can slow it down. I can speed it up. Everything works out. Okay, let's go to the next one over here. Drop and slide. Okay, again, this should work as well. Look in here. Yep, that works there. Cool. Put a marker here. Whoops, there we go. Okay. Listen to that. Cool, there's that there. Here's the Man Without a Clue remix of Don't Be Shy. Okay, that sounds like it's going to work pretty good. I'm just going to put a warp marker here at the end as well. Dog is barking. Okay, and I put one at the end, I put one at the beginning. You don't actually have to put the one at the end. I put the one at the end just because usually, not all the time, but a lot of times these songs have kind of drifted like a little bit. You saw that I had to just go in here and drag this over so it locked right in. And that'll make everything in here lock right in really perfectly. Okay, so that'll work in there. And anywhere I click on here, okay, that all works there. Let's go to the remix. Make sure that's starting right in the beginning, which it is. Okay. I'm just going to go over here to the end and put one in at the end. Right in here. There we go. Like that. Boom. Cool. Everything. Awesome. Okay, that sounds pretty good. So now these are ready to work with. Now, the other thing we need to mess around with here is for DJing, you're gonna have two different channels. So let's call this one channel A, channel 1, channel 2. We're gonna have two different channels, and those channels need to have a couple things on. They need to have an EQ, they need to have a mixer. So we've got the mixer right here. I'm just gonna put these at -10. Click and type it in, -10. And let's go ahead and put an EQ in here. And I'm going to show you how I set up my EQs for DJ mix stuff. I use an EQ 8. Now, I believe there's actually another EQ in here now that they've added in, the channel EQ. Yeah, which is this one here, which I don't actually use. Maybe I should. I don't know. I don't actually use this one, although this one is probably more like a real DJ mixer. Let's listen. I actually do mine a little bit differently. And because this is fairly new, I haven't really used this one that much. Let's see. I'll put that right there. Huh, interesting. I haven't really used this channel EQ that much because it's fairly new, and I've been doing these DJ mixes for a long time with the same setup. So what I use is I use an EQ8, and the EQ8, I just have a high and a low cut. So I just get rid of this one here, and I have a high and a low cut that I assign to different frequencies. Oops. There you go. Here's my high pass. I have that set up there to assign that to different frequencies. And you could have some effects over here if you want to, but this is like the basics of it, right? So I do it like this. And let's go ahead and automate these. So I'm going to go in here, hit the automation. I'm going to get my lane here for the lows, hit a lane here for this one. For my highs, hit a lane here for there we go, frequency, boom. So my frequency 4, frequency 8, hold on a second, let's get rid of you, frequency 1, there we go. And then I have one for my gain, for my track volume. I put the track volume on the bottom, I put frequency 1 on the bottom because it's my bass frequency, and my high frequencies up here. So I have my tracks have 1, 2, and 3 lanes on them. And I'll take this and I'll hold down this and I'll drag it over to this one here. Boom. So that should, oh no, it doesn't. Okay. So, because I don't have any automation going on. So I'm just going to fold this up and I'm going to do the same thing. My volume level, track volume, and then my frequency 1, frequency, boom, and then frequency 4, frequency up here. Boom, do that, set that up, and there we are with that stuff. And I usually pull these down a little bit so I can see nice and a lot of, well, not that much. I want to be able to see everything on my screen at the same time. So like that right there is how I usually set this up. So it's starting at -10 and like that. Now, what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to pick an order for these. So let's go with let's start with that one, and let's go down here to this one, and I'm going to put that right over there, like this. And we can have it go back and forth like this, and then this one, and then this one here. So I'll go from this one here, and I can just check how these are going to sound. There we go. All right, there we go. They sound fine, whatever. And now what I'm going to do to set up my actual DJ mix, I get the order here. I got the order. I'm going to highlight these, copy them, and paste them in over here in my arrangement view. So now I've got these in the right order that I want them to be in. There they are, like that. Turn them on so we can see them. And I'm going to make these nice and big. Highlight them both and drag them down so I can see both of them. Now, what I'll do is I'll figure out where do I want the next track to be. Now, usually with DJ stuff, it's usually like most producers have like a 32 count on the end and the beginning. That's about a minute. So there's a minute in the middle, and the middle is like about 4 minutes long or so. That's the actual song most of the time. The beginning and the end is like the DJ mix part for the beginning and for the end. So what I'll do in here is I'll drag this one down so it matches up right there. And we got this, so you can see these two here. If I, whoops, they're off. There we go, boom. All right, and the key is okay for these. All right. And I can just like listen to those, and I keep them at -10 for this fade part here, so nothing's going too over the top here. And I'll go back and I'll do some like EQ stuff here in a second. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these over, grab this one, check this out. Let's see, 32 bars. Drag it in like this, and let's see what that sounds like. You can hear that mix is, you know, it's going to work out okay. That the one thing is going to fade down, the other thing is going to come up here. We'll put some EQs in here in a second. Okay, if I want to change this up here, what I could do is grab this one at like right here and start it there, so I can cut that and pull this back to here like that. So we have the fade starts with this right here. And that's something, you know, if you're DJing with these songs a lot in real life, you're gonna find things that work with the songs individually. I know that this song has a really crazy long, like kind of boring lead out. So what I would do, drag it over here like this, cut this one, right, drag these over, and we can hear this fade works pretty good. So now once we've got these laid out where we like them, these little songs right here, then what we'll do is I'm going to close these back up. I'm going to hit A to pull it into this mode here so I can see everything that's going on right there. And now, because we don't need to see the top part anymore, what we're going to focus on now mostly is these bottom parts. Okay. And what I'm going to do in here is this is where I'm going to do my kind of fades on my volume and stuff like that. So for example, this one here is going to come in. I don't want it to come in super loud. So maybe I'll bring the fade in. So what I'll do is I'll pull it down a little bit and I'll delete this point over here. So let's listen. There we go. And over here, I'm going to cut the low end. And I'll put a fade on that low end cut as well by putting in automation points. Now you can see a lot of this work is done with the automation, all the stuff that we just learned about. And I'm going to kill the volume on this one here just for this little bit, so there's like a gap of silence right here like this. Pull that down all the way. And usually I like to, if I'm really paying attention to stuff, I actually like to do this with little fades and things, because that sounds a little bit more realistic than just having a cut, because you can't cut. There's always like a little bit of a fade, even though if it's a fast fade. So if we listen to this here, that gives it a little bit more, makes it sound a little bit more natural, like it would sound like for real, like if you're really doing it live. Okay. Okay, cool. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over here to this one. I don't need to listen to it. I'm gonna pull the volume down on this, have it do like a fade up, and I'm gonna cut the low end on this as well, so we don't have the low end coming in. So we listen. And what I'll do with this bottom track down here is I'll cut the low end out a couple of bars that kind of gets us to have like a little reset of everything. And I'll do it quite a bit. Here, pull this like this, pull this up like that. So now, and I'll do a fade on this. You notice I'm not pulling it all the way down because we only have to crossfade enough so the audience doesn't really hear it. Now over here, I'm gonna go ahead and do a fade like this, so it's more of a natural sounding fade. And same thing with this. Go ahead and pull this one up like that. Let's listen to that one more time. Do 4 bars before, or 8 bars. There we go. We could even fade this one in like that. Might sound a little bit cooler. Yeah, there we go. So Roman says, are you able to set this up to any MIDI controllers like launchpads? Absolutely, yeah. We could set up these here to any controller I want. I can set this up, hit Command M, and I'll set this up to 2 of my controllers here. I can set this up to this one, to one of my knobs on there, and over here number 4, the high one there, and then over here number 2, the low one be this one, and then the high one be this one right there. And then I can use this can be this, and this can be this. And all I'm doing is just turning the knob. I just click on it and I turn the knob I want to use, hit Command M. So now my MIDI, where is it? Did that not work for that one? There we go. There we go. So now I can adjust these levels, and I can have it so the peak is -10, like the same way. I hit Command M, and I click on it, the peak is -10, like that, and the peak on this one is -10. So that way I'm never going above -10. There we go. So I don't have to worry about my levels there. And you can have these assigned to faders or whatever. And now I can also adjust my lows and my highs. Like that. Well, it's not. For some reason, it's not happy with the knob. That one's fine. This knob is not happy. Guess the knob is like a little bit wonky. That one's fine. This one is also not. Oh, that's because we're in a different mode. There we go. There we go. Yes. So if you're actually, so this is, I should have kind of said something about this. This is not. Hold on. Why is this not working? This is not actually for DJing on a stage. I'm talking about more like setting up a DJ mix that you just want to like put out or play for yourself or whatever. I also use it for getting orders together sometimes a little bit. I mostly do that more in Record Box these days. But I used to do a lot of stuff in here like this, and I do a monthly mix for Nervous Records, and I put it together in Ableton Live like this because they give me the songs and they need me to turn around a mix like a day later. So I don't really have a lot of time to get to know the songs and get to really dig in, because they give me like 11 songs that they want to put out, because it's just a mix of the kind of the best of the month songs, or their highlights for the month. So this is more for, you could use this on a stage with setting up your mix parameters and stuff like this. I'm not sure why this one is. Oh, that's why, because it was different. There we go. Now it's working. So you could set up like this, and the way you do this is you just set these up so they're on different tracks, like this, and you go back and forth. So we play this. Let me stop this song here. So if I go over here, I turn my knob here for this one here, and I can start the second song. Is everything different? Hold on, I think everything's different. Everything's different. Hold on a second. That I had it in the wrong mode before, so that's why that's doing like that. There we go. Yeah, I had it in completely the wrong mode. There we go. There we go. Cool. All right. Now we're set up correctly. So this one will work. The only problem with this is that why? Oh, because we're in the wrong screen? The only problem with this really is that, there we go, is that you can't see everything at the same time in front of you, which is kind of an issue. Like my knobs here don't actually have, they don't have like markers on them to show where things are. So, okay, that one works. Ugh, come on. There we go. Okay. Yeah, they don't have markers on them to show where everything is set up. So I actually use the Launch Control XL that does have, it's got knobs with like little markers on them so you can see where things are. It works a little bit better than this keyboard right here. This keyboard's not great for this kind of stuff. And that Launch Control XL also has like faders and stuff on it. So I can actually look and see what the physical hardware is showing me. But what that means is before I start playing, I have to go through and turn all the knobs to make sure everything is good. I could set it in pickup mode just so it just picks up exactly where it is, but that means it's going to jump during the performance too. So just got to be a little bit careful about certain things. There are always, whenever you're playing live, there's always tricks and workarounds and things like that going on. All right, so here if I play this, so I'm setting this up right here, so we can see I brought that in right there. And I can play this. I can perform this in. You can hear I'm messing with the levels there. You can see I cut the low end out right there. Cool, like that. So you can see what you can go in and kind of do some things like that and, you know, mess around with it. And here, of course, when I do that, it's going to take all this stuff and go away with it. So put all this back in here. And let's actually also put in a little fade on the top there. So we're getting the top out. And I'm going to highlight it. The way I do these kinds of things, I usually highlight them down, pull it down, and then apply the fade like that. And this is just a way that I've learned to work that just kind of works real well. Pull this back this way, put another one in over here. Well, I could just do that. There we go. So if we listen. a second. We actually started right there. We go. Yeah, put that fade in. You can hear those hi-hats cut out right there, and we'll pull this up a little bit. Cool. Little things like that you can go back and tweak if you want. Let's go back over here. There we go. Cool. Go over here to this end over here. Now this one works without any kind of fade. I like how it comes straight in. Pull this out up here. Pull this up. Here we go. Pull this up. Let's see what that sounds like. Cool. And if I want to pull that fast hi-hat out, so it's not, because it's kind of a little bit too much, I'll just go over here. Pull that down a little bit. The other cool thing about when you're doing it like this is you can actually grab a different part of the song and copy and paste it over there. So we don't have to have that. So I can just copy and paste that over like you're doing like an edit type of thing. Cool, and with this one here, let's put a little fade on it right there at the end so you don't have a pop. Cool. Nice. Right, there we go. And so we've got our little DJ mix here. It sounds pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all this, hold down Shift and click that, put a loop on there. This loop, I'm going to put the end right over here where this line is. Put a little marker right there. Add locator, call that end. And what I'll do is I'll also put in locators where each of these things are. So where each song starts. Let's do a locator right there for track 2 and track 3. We'll do it here. Let's see, 16, yeah, right there. Track 3. And because if you have to put IDs in here, if you have to cut them, you want to cut them in a place that makes sense. Like a real DJ mix there if you're releasing it. Yeah, there's that one. Whoops. There's this. Yeah. Cool. Cool, there's that. And locator number 1 right over here. There we go. So now I've got these locators in here. So what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll actually bounce this out right now. Now, a couple things. If I did have some delays and echoes and delays and reverbs and stuff in here, the effects that I put in, I'm going to bounce this out. I'm going to show you how to bring that back in. So I'm going to go in here. Let's save this as DJ setup 2111 A1. And there we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bounce this out. Command R to bounce it out. And not do MP3. I'm just going to do wave here. No dither, 24-bit. There we go. Boom. Hit export. And bring it into the DJ setup here. And I'm going to call this one full, because it's the whole mix. And let that bounce out. And as it's when it bounces out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new audio track and bring it below it. Now, what this does for us is it makes sure that we have all of our effects, any kind of external effects. Because if I just bounce it out and then just like cut that up, it's not going to have everything exactly like where I need. Like there's some things that do arise, especially if you have to go in and add in new stuff or whatever. So I forget exactly why I started doing this. I started doing this because of edits that needed to be made to things later on. And I found that if you bounce down just like a section, oh, I know why I do this. I do it so I can go in here and cut it up here. I used to bounce it down just section by section, which worked okay, but if you have like effects, like I said, delays or reverbs or anything like that, it doesn't get bounced out correctly. So what I do is I do this, now I'll bring this back in, and I forgot to say, actually, let's bounce that out one more time. I do put like a little brick wall limiter on here, the limiter. Hold on, I forgot to say that. I put the limiter here, and I put the gain at like 5 dB or something like that, just to make sure that everything is set up, everything works correctly. Let's turn it down. I'm going to turn it down for y'all so it doesn't kill y'all's headphones. Right, and that way, yeah, we're getting it nice and loud, everything. It's pushing that gain, but it's not clipping too much there, right? So I'm going to do that. Cool. I'll pull it back down again. I'm going to bounce this out one more time. There we go. Full. Here, just bounce. Yes, replace it. There we go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make a new track, a third track. I'm going to bring it back in, and I'm going to make the cuts with the in this new track, and I'm going to crop everything out. And that's going to make new audio versions of this. So I'll show you that here. And while it's doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into that folder I just made. It's my Ableton, teaching, Ableton Live. There we go. Here, I'm going to make a new folder in here. I'm going to call this one DJ 2111 A1 Mixed. Like that. I've got a folder here called Mixed. And let's go ahead into the current project. See, there's a folder here called Mixed. I'm going to put this track in there, and it's going to automatically, it'll be fine there. And I'm going to drag it into my set. Make sure you turn off the limiter, which is super, super important. I'm going to turn the volume down on this track here, -10. There we go. And this one here now, I'm going to turn off the warp. And you can see these levels are pretty different here. I'm not really sure why the first track is so low and everything. But hopefully it sounds pretty good. It should sound pretty good. Okay, so we got that. Let's turn these off. Cool. Alright, I'm not sure why those levels are different. I would want to explore that, but I'm not going to do it right now. What I am going to do is I'm just going to go in here. I'm going to cut these where they need to be cut. I can close down the bottom screen there. I don't need that. Command Option L. And go in here. And I'm just going to grab these where they need to be cut at. Turn off my grid. And this, I don't usually do it on the grid because it doesn't really matter if it's on the grid or not, because nobody's going to know where the grid was. Nobody's going to put this back into a DAW like this and re-chop it. And sometimes, especially if you've got like automation, like especially if you've got tempo changes and stuff like that, that stuff kind of gets weird. Let me show you the tempo change thing here in a minute. We'll go back and do that because I didn't show you the tempo changes. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put these cuts where they look like they make sense, and so there's no clipping or anything. We got that. Good. Okay, cool. Rename these tracks DJ 2111 A1 track 01, like that. Copy that, paste, boom. 02. There's actually an easier way to do that where you name the first one before you start doing all this, and it automatically like puts the first part of it for you, which I forgot to do. But now we just go through, highlight these, right click, and go to crop clips. Down here you can see it's writing the cropped sample here. And once it's written that cropped sample, it shows them to me again. Now these are all individual audio files now. They're all individual audio files on my computer, and you can see that the levels are kind of wonky on them. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I go to show in browser or show in Finder, whatever you want to do. Here they are in the browser, and I'm just going to drag them from here into the mixed folder over here. It's going to relocate them for Ableton as well, so Live's not going to get all crazy if I do it like this. And now we can see in here, here's track 1, 2, 3, 4, and the full mix as well. So now I can give this to somebody. They have track IDs. They have all the stuff they need. And if we put this into like iTunes or something like that, it should just go from track to track without any kind of issues or anything like that. So now that we've done that, let me just back this up a little bit, and then you'd be done. You can just zip that up and give it to somebody. But let me just show you how to do automation on the tempo change here. If I want to change my tempo, same thing. I just hit A for automation, click on my tempo up here, and now this bottom line down here is an automation lane for my tempo. So I can drag it up, and you can see here's limits here. I can set my limits, which is really useful. I can set my limits here. Let's set this bottom limit to 124. That's the slowest we want to go. Let's set the upper limit to 126. That's the fastest we want to go. And now I can just go in here and say, I want this song to be 126. Excuse me. So it's going to go from 124 to 126. I want to finish off at 126. So everything is going to get a little bit faster over here by 2 BPMs. And it's going to do that over the course of a minute. So your audience probably isn't going to notice over the course of 1 minute, or we could even do it longer, over the course of whatever time you want to do, that everything's actually speeding up. 2 BPMs is not that much for most people to notice. So here it is over the course of 2 minutes. Here's 2 minutes right there. So we can have that, and it's going to be printed into your bounce once you do the bounce. Hit A to close all that stuff down. Put my master back down here so we don't see it all crazy big and everything. And then the final thing we're going to do is go in here to our Finder. Here's our mixed files. You can see they all have the ASD files, which you don't really need. You don't want to send those ASD files over to anybody. And now we just take this, right click on it, and go to compress. Oh, the other thing I do, hold on a second, before I do that, the only other thing I do is I make I take a screenshot of this so I know what my order is. Screenshot of these right here, boom. And I put that in the folder as well. Here's my screenshot right there. So DJ 2111 A1 track list, like that, and put that in this folder. There we go. Now I have the track list there, so I know what the track order is. I don't put the IDs in here. I just keep them as track 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I need to go through and do the the ISRCs and all that stuff, then I can go through and look at this. But actually, when I do this stuff for Nervous, somebody else does all that. I don't have to do all the data entry in here. So I just give them this. Here's track 1, 2, 3, and 4, like that. There we go. There we go. And then I consolidate this, compress it, boom. It compresses it. Let that do its thing. And then you end up with your DJ mix that you can send over to somebody to put up online, or you can put it up online yourself, or whatever you want to do. Now, obviously, if you're doing the DJ mix for like SoundCloud or something like that, you don't need to do this last step because you're not going to chop it up into individual tracks. You don't need to do the track list unless you want to. I still think it's a good idea to do the track list because then you have that file there for you to check it out later, and you don't have to type it in. You can just do a snapshot of it, and there you go. But if you're doing stuff up to SoundCloud, I never do this. I don't do this part here. I don't crop out the individual tracks because nobody really needs those. That's an extra 10, 15 minutes of your life that you're not going to get back. So don't worry about that if you're doing it out to SoundCloud. And if you're doing it out to SoundCloud as well, you may want to do the MP3 option instead of the full wave, just because SoundCloud, depending on if you've got a pro account or not, lets you put less time or more time up. I forget how they do it right now, but you may or may not want to do full-on waves. So that's that. Let me go ahead and stop this recording here.